You would quit if the White House, a political appointee, your boss, the Director of National Intelligence, the President, asked you to change an intelligence finding. So the chairman of the Election Assistance Commission does not yet have their security clearance.
Correct.
You're saying there are more 9/11 secrets that have yet to be revealed?
Yes, absolutely.
An America that is safer, stronger, and wiser. Is it? We haven't seen that yet here in the United States. Could we?
Buckle up, you're going to see it.
Is it a matter of time before a drone disrupts traffic here at this airport? It's a weapon.
Yes.
Being deployed against you.
Yeah.
Did any of you realize that before today?
No.
I have to ask you, do you have any designs on the presidency? Are you thinking of running for office?
Not at all. Did you find any widespread fraud that would have changed the results of the election?
How many of you have thought about harming yourself? Oh my. You're saying that the Jehovah's Witness organization has been more defiant than the Catholic Church?
Yes.
Welcome to this special report, Hate in the Homeland. We're coming to you from the Lincoln Memorial. But one thing is clear, your vote does count. For the next hour, we will take your questions about the coronavirus.
How this virus can be transmitted. You talked about the sneeze, the cough.
Creating new land here, along with the bulldozers and other heavy equipment here on the horizon.
And that was the PTC overriding your decision.
Exactly.
You lied to your mom.
I did.
Why'd you do that?
If it's so easy to spoof a website, why in the world are these counties not fixing them?
To our 6-month investigation into drones and national security, there's a growing number of lawmakers who want to ban the government using Chinese-made drones.
They're worried the devices could spy on our electrical grid, military bases, and more. But there's a twist. Some of the people you'd think would be supporting drone bans the most are actually against the idea.
Chief National Investigative Correspondent Mark Albert continues our investigative series, Drone Defense.
He is off his meds and he wants to have a shootout with law enforcement.
A shots fired call in northwest Arkansas in May.
All he said to me was he wasn't going to put his gun, air rifle, whatever it is down. That's it.
Sebastian County deputies respond.
Get behind the car for cover.
He's moving. He's moving.
But instead of going in,
We're going to get that drone airborne.
Deputy Trevor Massey launched his personal drone for a peek.
Get out. We'll back away. Let the drone do a couple passes.
So without this drone?
We would have put ourselves in harm's way without this drone.
But deputies found no immediate threat and left.
And it just made a very unsafe situation a whole lot safer.
But after July 31st, his department and all government agencies in Arkansas cannot buy that drone because it's made by DJI, a Chinese company. A new state law says drones made by any Chinese or Russian company cannot be purchased with taxpayer money, and those already in use have to be grounded within 4 years.
You viewed it as a homeland security risk?
I do.
Senator Justin Boyd and Representative Britt McKenzie, both Republicans, wrote the Arkansas drone ban bill, now signed into law.
I think it's important that when you have a Chinese military-funded organization and they control 80% of the market, you have to give other opportunities out there for privacy and security.
Chinese-made drones pose a threat. We're ahead of the curve in terms of other states and other legislatures that are taking up this issue.
Government drone bans are, in fact, a growing trend. Just this year, Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Florida all adopted some form of government drone bans. And in each state, the drones registered to law enforcement are almost all Chinese-made, according to data obtained by the National Investigative Unit from the Federal Aviation Administration. Alabama is considering such a ban. Nearly all law enforcement drones there are Chinese-made too. 4 bills in Congress include drone bans, after lawmakers warned in hearings, letters, and statements of China, quote, stealing our data using drones. The U.S. military and the Departments of State and Interior already banned buying Chinese-made drones. And a 2021 executive order by then-President Trump said use of foreign-made drones, quote, may allow sensitive data transferred out of the country. Even more agencies should ban them, according to Brian Harrell, a former Assistant Secretary for Infrastructure Protection at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. We spoke to him at the University of Maryland's Southern Maryland Autonomous Research and Technology Innovation Center.
They're Chinese manufactured, they're Chinese made, and we're seeing a lot of data leave proprietary IT systems and go overseas to a nation state adversary that doesn't like the United States.
Let me make sure I understand this. What have you seen with your own eyes that data about sensitive sites in the U.S. has been transmitted back to China?
Yes.
You hesitated.
Well, I did, yes.
Why?
Because, I'm no longer with the government. I'm not in that space. But I can say that wearing my previous hat, I've seen a number of incidents and critical infrastructure companies reporting to the U.S. government that this information, their information, has potentially been stolen. And the mechanism was DJI drones.
Sir, is the Chinese government using your drones to steal data here in the U.S.?
No, that's simply not true.
Adam Welsh is the head of global policy for DJI.
We've had numerous audits, cybersecurity and data security audits, that show no data is going back to China. Some of those audits we actually paid for ourselves, but other audits were either undertaken by the U.S. government using Idaho National Labs or the Department of Interior, which used NASA and others to vet our products. In all cases, they found that no data was going back to China. So the evidence is definitely on our side.
So I wonder if you can help us understand the DJI privacy policy, the subheading International Transfers of Personal Data. Quote, your information collected by DJI may be transferred to and accessed by DJI entities and business partners globally. Can data from the U.S. be transmitted overseas to China?
So in the only case where data would be transferred to China and you would be notified of this fact is if there were some sort of warranty issue or there was some sort of malfunction with the drone.
The company has strong defenders, even splitting political alliances.
Did the state give you any new drones to use?
Absolutely not.
Did they give you any money to buy new drones?
No.
Did they offer to buy back any drones you might have?
No.
Hobie Runyon, sheriff in Sebastian County, Arkansas, where his deputies' small DJI drone recently protected deputies on a shots fired call, says the new ban on Chinese-made drones in his state is a waste of taxpayer money. And it got him thinking of a way out.
I'm looking at alternative measures.
You found a loophole?
Possibly.
And you're going to use that loophole to
Absolutely.
buy a Chinese-made drone?
Exactly. Nobody can ever accuse me of not supporting our nation, our community, and I would absolutely do what I can to get the best product, the best service to our citizens as I can.
A tactical decision to protect a community that some fear comes with a strategic cost to the homeland.
Now, next week, the FAA will hold its annual drone symposium, bringing together government and industry leaders in Baltimore. On the agenda, drone security and how to protect critical infrastructure against drone-related threats.
Today marks 1 year since a former student shot and killed 19 children and 2 teachers at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas.
That massacre prompted our National Investigative Unit to launch an ongoing series called Securing Our Schools. This evening, our investigation continues, uncovering gaps in school safety training.
Chief National Investigative Correspondent Mark Albert reports from Uvalde and other schools all across the U.S.
My parents
A simulated school emergency.
are going to just line up on that wall. Miss Hopper, are you ready? 1, 2.
Police on site. Frenzied parents.
How many students are remaining?
Evacuated students.
I need D. Campbell.
This
Reunify is ready.
is a reunification drill.
We want to save lives.
Practicing how to bring parents and their children back together after a shooting, chemical spill, or natural disaster.
I felt that it was critical for me to be here today.
Child's name, ID.
It's training we found most districts are not required to do.
That was just lacking for us.
Sheriff Mike Taylor brought the exercise to Pittsylvania County in Southern Virginia. He remembers not being able to get a hold of his college-aged son for hours during the Virginia Tech shooting in 2007. Earlier this year, Sheriff Taylor asked the I Love You Guys Foundation to train his deputies and the local school district.
I really liked their program. Unfortunately, the founder and his wife paid a terrible price in losing their daughter.
Just grieving with my community.
In 2006, at Platte Canyon High School in Colorado, a gunman killed 16-year-old Emily Keys. Her final text to her parents, I love you guys. John Michael Keys is her father.
There isn't any one thing that stops a school attack. We're building a myriad of layers.
And the foundation's co-founder.
She's part of the fabric of our story. I love you guys. People learn really efficiently if there's an emotional hook. Okay? And we set an emotional hook early on to enhance the training experience.
Another emotional hook here, Stacy Avila, a trainer and retired police officer.
If you're in the hall and I can look through the corridor window and see you.
Back in 2006, she tried to negotiate with Emily's killer.
I feel like I have a debt to the Keys family that I can never repay. And so if I can do this to help their foundation, their cause, I will do anything I can, because I wasn't able to save their girl.
In our exclusive questionnaire sent to every public school district in all 50 states, the I Love You Guys Foundation was one of more than 130 organizations and companies districts told us they've contacted for help in securing our schools. Our investigation has found that bedrock responsibility is largely unregulated at the federal level. No uniform requirements for school safety training or qualifications for companies training districts. And at the state level, nearly half, 24 states, do not require any school safety training for teachers and staff.
So you believe that every state should require trainings and drills?
Yes.
Jacqueline Schildkraut runs the Regional Gun Violence Research Consortium from Syracuse, New York, and is the author of the book, Lockdown Drills.
If you're not providing training, if you're not providing opportunities to practice, then you're going to have more chaos when that emergency occurs.
Could lives be in jeopardy because of it?
Absolutely.
This horrible gunman had already killed the children.
Roland Gutierrez is the state senator who represents Uvalde, Texas. We spoke to him at the now boarded up Robb Elementary, where a gunman killed 19 children and 2 teachers exactly 1 year ago. The Democratic senator's bill, which he says is unlikely to pass in the Republican-controlled state legislature, would require coordinated training on how to react to school shootings and would post a patrol officer at every campus.
This is the most important issue in this country. There is no other, not inflation, not high gas, not even health care or anything. If you don't have your kid, there is nothing.
Nothing like the grief from a child murdered, and for some, a pain that prompts a purpose.
Why have you chosen this path?
You know, Emily gave us a voice from the classroom, and she also told us what to say. I love you guys, right?
4 short words that have left an indelible impact, with the need never ending.
Now to a nationwide exclusive. Our National Investigative Unit has been reporting on election security for the past 2 years now, exposing gaps, vulnerabilities, and ways to protect your vote. Tonight, only on WBAL TV 11, the leader of the election security effort for all U.S. intelligence agencies sits down with Chief National Investigative Correspondent Mark Albert for a rare interview about threats to the November 3rd election.
We have not identified any foreign actors manipulating or attempting to manipulate any mail-by-vote systems or processes here in the U.S.
Bill Avenina is the man on the hot seat, overseeing election security at America's 17 intelligence agencies. He calls himself the quarterback of that effort, and the playbook he's using, the most important, he says, since 9/11. He's now issued 2 extraordinary public election security warnings, putting Americans on alert about ongoing and potential activity by China, Russia, and Iran to compromise our election systems.
The attempt to gain personally identifiable information from candidates, from campaigns, and prominent Americans is a big increase from 2016.
So all 3 countries have tried to penetrate the major campaigns and candidates, but you won't tell us whether they were successful.
That's correct.
It almost sounds as though what the Russians are doing are more sophisticated, widespread, covert than what China's doing.
I think where we've seen Russia change its tactics and procedures, the change is that the Russians are no longer using their own, mostly proxies and bots and troll farms because they got caught. They're now taking U.S. citizens' information and they are taking it and amplifying it.
You're saying the Russians are taking what Americans are saying that could be false, misleading, disinformation, and amplifying them.
That's correct. Not just the Russians, so are the Chinese and the Iranians.
So amplify false statements like mail-in ballots fraud being found all over the place, unsolicited mail-in ballot scam is a major threat to our democracy. 2020 will be the most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history. All those false statements made by the President of the United States.
If they see a reference made by the President of the United States, a prominent U.S. Senator, a business person, someone who America looks at as a voice of reason, and they believe it suits their interest, they will amplify that by 1,000 to make sure that the most amount of people see it.
What other countries are either interfering in our election process or seeking to interfere? Saudi Arabia?
Yes.
Venezuela?
Yes.
North Korea?
No.
Cuba?
Yes.
Turkey?
Yes.
UAE?
No.
Israel?
No. And I would say influence, not interfere. There's a difference. So
What's the difference?
Interference is a big deal. That means a cyber activity. There's been a cyber hack, but your influence is the mind of the voter.
Have you seen any intelligence that any foreign actor has placed malware on any election infrastructure this year?
No.
At all?
I have not. Nope.
We spoke to Evanina for over an hour at the Kiplinger Research Library at the D.C. History Center. Sir, what is the #1 threat to our elections?
Public confidence.
And later on the National Mall, as a congressional hearing took place that very afternoon on combating misinformation in the 2020 election. So adversaries overseas or here at home could use that period after Election Day, but before the results are known, to try and divide us even more.
Absolutely. We look at what the Russians did in Ukraine in 2014, changing their election results from the state to the cable news stations. Everything that touches the internet is vulnerable, and we have to make sure that we are on top of that before we get to November 3rd.
Evanina is set to give his final election security briefing to both presidential campaigns and the two major political parties later this month. Those joint agency briefings are new, created by Evanina for the 2020 election cycle. And he made this promise during our interview.
Have you ever been told by a political appointee or the White House to withhold intelligence from the public?
Unequivocally, no.
Have you ever been told by a political appointee or the White House to change a finding?
Unequivocally, no.
Would you quit if someone asked you to change your
Absolutely.
findings? You would quit if the White House, a political appointee, your boss, the Director of National Intelligence, the President asked you to change an intelligence finding?
If I believed it to be not true or not worth the value, absolutely, I would quit that day.
In Washington, I'm Chief National Investigative Correspondent Mark Alberts.